The problem started at 10 to 3 in the afternoon, and they stayed down till 9:20 last night. We were completely in gridlock in this area. It was an absolute nightmare.
Ever since the level crossing at Hawkesbury Village was closed for 7 hours on Thursday, we've been trying to talk to Network Rail on the show to ask them what the problem is, what's going on, and what they thought of their response on a day. In a moment, we'll do that. The barriers stay down for long periods. It's a cause of long-running anger for villagers. You remember we've talked about it on the show before. Here's resident Brian Bonser, who lives 250 yards away from the crossing, talking to me on the show yesterday.
If men are actually working on the lines, at that point, why can't pedestrians cross over safely?
Yeah.
The men on the lines know when the train is coming. They have automatic hearing distances with the radios. Why can't school children and pedestrians cross the line when men are actually on the track?
Let's talk to Network Rail's Ben Herbert, who joins us on the show. Morning, Ben.
Morning, Shane.
He's got a good point, hasn't he? Why was the line closed for 7 hours?
No, it's, firstly, I'd just like to apologise. We had an electrical fault last week, which meant the crossing didn't work on, I think, Wednesday and Thursday. Completely appreciate it. It's very, very frustrating for residents there. At the end of the day, these crossings, we have thousands of these crossings across the country, and some of them are, they have quite a lot of complex mechanical and electrical components. And just like your car sometimes goes wrong, occasionally these do go wrong. As I said, it was a fault with the electrics on the crossing that we had last week. Hopefully we've now fixed it. We regularly maintain the crossing and inspect it to make sure everything is working correctly. But from hearing those clips there, I completely appreciate how frustrating it must have been for residents when the crossing was broken last week.
So why didn't you allow people to cross? We don't understand why you couldn't allow people. You had the British Transport Police were there, you were there, and you still couldn't get people across safely. You closed the line for 7 hours, closed the road for 7 hours.
It's very, very simple, Shane. Ultimately, there was when the crossing it was faulty as it was last week, there was no way of knowing when the train was coming. Level crossings, unfortunately for us, they are the biggest risk of an accident happening on the railway in this country.
Hang on a second. Ben.
Yeah.
There's no way of knowing when a train is coming.
In that instance, where the crossing was faulty, there was no way that the people on the ground there would have been able to tell when the train was coming down that line.
How on earth were the workers working safe, Ben?
That's why we have to, as I said, it's just not safe, I'm afraid, to let people across. I mean,
so you were putting your workers at risk by letting them work on a railway line, and you couldn't tell when trains were coming?
No, not at all. But I'm afraid, when the crossing is faulty as it was then, the crossings are, the crossings are a dangerous place, and what we didn't want to do, I'm afraid, is put people at risk. I mean, for us, Shane, I'm afraid safety has to come first. I completely appreciate...
Absolutely, but you're telling me this morning... Absolutely, but you're telling me this morning that you have no way of telling whether a train is coming, and that's why you had to close the line for 7 hours. Now, one or two things, Ben. Either that is not true and people could have crossed, or you put your workers at risk. Which one was it?
No, ultimately, our workers work on the line, are fully trained, they're briefed, and
it doesn't matter if you're fully trained. If it's a 30-ton train coming towards you, you could be trained in karate. You're not going to stop it, are you?
Yeah, what I'll say, Shane, is that there's a big difference between having our workers on the line who are trying to fix the problem and letting the general public cross the line. At the end of the day, it's down to safety. As I said, completely appreciate how frustrating it must have been. Until last week, we haven't had an issue with this crossing for a couple of months, so hopefully it won't reoccur in the future. We'll do everything we can to try and maintain that crossing. But as I said, at the end of the day, safety has to come first, and what we can't have, I'm afraid, is people putting at risk when we are not sure what trains are in the area.
Why didn't you close the line and stop your trains and put a bus service on then?
Well, it's not just. I'm afraid it's not just passenger trains. We have around 60 to 70 trains use this crossing every day. Unfortunately, for the residents of Hawkesbury, a large number of those are freight trains, and there is no other way you can divert a freight train around that route. And to be honest with you, I think the other issue here that residents are obviously very frustrated about is the barrier downtime. I think I've seen comments that the barriers are down for a long time, and unfortunately, what we've got at Hawkesbury is of those 60 to 70 trains that cross the crossing every day, around half are freight trains. So when a train approaches the crossing, effectively what it does, it strikes into the section, and that triggers the barriers to come down. The crossing signalman then checks that the crossing is clear of traffic and pedestrians before allowing the train to proceed. unfortunately, because we have a lot of freight trains in this area, freight trains are typically slower. And obviously they're physically longer as well, so they do take a bit longer to go through the crossing. So it is unfortunate from our point of view.
Ben, I've got to stop you, mate, because you're talking out your hat. You haven't. Some of the stuff you're talking about here is not what residents are saying. They're saying that before, when it was staying down too long, that it was staying down for 20 minutes and then a train came through within that 20 minutes. Nothing to do with the length of the train, nothing to do with the freight train. You sound like you're in denial about the problems that you have. Now, this has got one of the worst records of a crossing that I've ever come across. And my question to you and from the people of Hawkesbury is, what's your long-term plan? Are you just going to keep coming on and making fools of yourselves, trying to explain something that is unexplainable in the way that you're operating? Because the residents want you to do something, Ben. They want you to sort this problem out. When are you going to address the issues?
It is, Trent. It is a difficult one. I mean, from our point of view, the safest level crossing, quite frankly, is a closed one. We have a lot of these level crossings around the country. They are a big...
Well, it must be one of the safest ones you've got then, because it's never open.
As well. So long term, we would, if there was funding available, and this is the big issue, I'm afraid, we would love to replace the crossing with a bridge, but you've got two issues there. You've got funding, and then you've got actually to build a bridge or an underpass here would probably require quite a lot of land.
I don't think people are looking for that. I think can you not just put a crossing in that will work? Can you not just put one in?
Yeah, we would love to.
You don't have the capability to do that at Network Rail.
These are, as I said, the crossing, until it failed last week, we haven't had problems for quite a few months, touch wood. So it is a difficult one. These are quite complex bits of kit, mechanically and electrically. We inspect them as often as we can when we inspect them on a regular basis, and they are all safety assessed. So it is a difficult one. As I said, we can only apologise to the residents who've been inconvenienced, and it's a difficult one going forward, but, going forward, we'll do everything we can to make sure that crossing works. We've met with local residents in the past, and we've been in communication with them last week. We'll probably try and meet them again in the next few weeks.
I was going to say you're going to meet them in the future. I think they would be crying out for that,
Well, what we have a local level crossing manager who's met the residents in the past. He was in communication with a couple of the local residents association last week, and we'll try and meet them again in the next few weeks, really to try and reassure them that we are, maintaining the crossing properly, and that it is working as it should do. But it's a difficult one, Shane, because we've got more trains running on the network than ever before, and I'm afraid this crossing will continue to remain fairly busy. You can have a lot of trains going through every day. And, while we can appreciate it is frustrating, residents and drivers have got to respect the barriers and obviously not try and go through when the trains are coming through.
Absolutely. We would never advocate that as an option. Ben, appreciate your time. So it is a difficult one. I suspect, in the back of my mind, my suspicion is it doesn't need to be, but time will tell on that one. Ben Herbert from Network Rail, thank you for your time this morning.